Have you ever looked around your own home, the place you've lived, loved, raised children in, and suddenly felt like a stranger? Like you're still there, but somehow, your voice isn't. Like your words float through the air and land, nowhere. And the people you once rocked to sleep, now cut you off mid-sentence, roll their eyes, or simply walk away. Maybe you've offered advice, kind, gentle, well-meaning, and instead of appreciation, you got dismissed. A sigh. A smirk. Come on, Mom, things don't work that way anymore. Or worse, silence. And you sit there wondering, when did I stop mattering? You're not imagining it. This shift, this slow erosion of respect, it sneaks up on you. And when it hits, it doesn't just bruise your feelings, it shakes something deep inside. Because it's not just about being heard. It's about being seen. It's about knowing that after everything you've done, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear you wiped, every meal you cooked, every lesson you taught, that you still matter. That your place in this family, in this world, is still solid. Still sacred. But when your children stop respecting you, whether they realize it or not, it's like the foundation starts to crack. You may have started second-guessing yourself. Maybe I am out of touch. Maybe it's just how kids are nowadays. Maybe I should just stay quiet, but let me tell you something, friend, your wisdom didn't expire. Your value didn't vanish. Your dignity didn't get old. And no, staying silent won't fix this. But here's the good news, you don't need to shout to be heard. You just need the right tools to shift the dynamic. Because there are ways to bring the respect back. Ways that are gentle, wise, and powerful, just like you. And in this video, we're going to talk about 6 of the most effective, heartfelt ways to rebuild that respect, not with anger, not with guilt, but with quiet strength and steady grace. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with not just tips, but real steps you can take today to restore the honor, love, and understanding you deserve, from your children and those around you. And let's be honest, this is something a lot of us go through, but few are willing to talk about. So, if you've ever felt ignored, overlooked, or simply not respected the way you once were, comment "Respect Matters" down below. Let's open the door to real conversations. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide for more empowering, eye-opening content just like this. Because your voice matters. Your story matters. And your respect? It's not just deserved. It's long overdue. Let's dive in. Let's start with something powerful, and often overlooked. Rebuilding boundaries, with kindness. Now, I want you to picture this. Martha is 72. A strong, loving woman who raised 3 kids, worked hard, and gave her life to her family. Lately, she's noticed something subtle. But painful. Her eldest son has started making decisions for her, about her finances, her medical appointments, even what groceries to buy. He means well. He thinks he's being helpful. But what he doesn't realize is that every time he takes over without asking, he chips away at her independence. At her sense of self. At the quiet dignity she spent a lifetime carrying. One afternoon, he said, "I've moved your prescriptions to a new pharmacy, it's closer to my house, so I can just pick them up for you." And Martha, instead of smiling politely like she always did, took a deep breath. She looked him in the eye and said gently, "Thank you for thinking of me, sweetheart. But I'd prefer to handle this one myself. I still want to make my own decisions." No anger. No lecture. Just calm, confident kindness. That moment? It shifted something. Because when you draw a boundary, not with bitterness, but with love, you teach people how to treat you. You see, as we get older, something strange happens. The people we raised start seeing us as the ones who need raising. It comes from love, sure. But sometimes love, when mixed with fear or control, can forget how to show respect. And here's the truth, when we lose our boundaries, we lose our voice. And when we lose our voice, people stop listening. But here's the other side of that coin. When we speak up, calmly, clearly, kindly, people begin to notice. There's a big misconception out there. That if you say no, or push back, or express a preference, you're being difficult. You're not. You're being clear. And clarity is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's not about fighting. It's not about control. It's about preserving your dignity. And letting your loved ones know, I'm still here. I still have a say. So, the next time someone steps in a little too quickly, or makes a choice without including you, try this simple line. I appreciate your support, but I'd prefer to do this on my own for now. Soft voice. Steady tone. Eye contact. Not defensive. Not demanding. Just real. And you know what? You don't have to say much more than that. You don't need to explain your whole life story. You're not asking for permission, you're stating a truth. Because the moment you start owning your space again, respect follows. But boundaries are just the beginning. Because once you've drawn that line with love, the next step is learning how to speak with strength, without raising your voice. It's just as powerful as setting boundaries. Speaking with strength, not bitterness. Let me tell you about Joseph. He's 78, a retired carpenter, proud father of 4. Joseph has always been the kind of man who speaks his mind, direct, passionate, and protective. But as his children grew older, they started to drift. Not just physically, but emotionally. They'd brush off his advice. Talk over him. Or say, "Dad, things are different now. You wouldn't understand." And that hurt. So, he started snapping. Raising his voice. Getting short. Sharp. Not because he was angry. But because he felt invisible. But here's the thing, every time Joseph snapped, his kids pulled away even more. The more he raised his voice, the more they closed their ears. Until one day, his daughter quietly said, "Dad, when you get angry, it's hard to hear what you're really trying to say." That stopped him cold. Because what he really wanted, wasn't to be right. He just wanted to be heard. So, Joseph started practicing something new. Not silence, but calm strength. He slowed down. Took a breath. And instead of reacting, he began responding. Next time his son dismissed his opinion, Joseph didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "Wait a moment, I have something important I'd like you to hear." No drama. No guilt. Just a gentle reminder that his words mattered. And you know what happened? They listened. Because when you speak softly but firmly, when your words come from clarity, not anger, people can't help but pay attention. You see, there's a big misunderstanding out there. Some believe that staying quiet equals keeping the peace. But the truth is, silence can sometimes mean you're surrendering your voice. And you, my friend, deserve to have a voice. Not a loud one. Not a demanding one. But a voice that's rooted in truth, experience, and love. Here's a little something to try next time you feel dismissed. Pause. Take a breath. And say, "I've lived a long time. I'd like to share what I've learned, not to control, but to help." Watch how that changes the room. Watch how it brings your children back from defensiveness, into curiosity. Because tone and delivery shape how people receive your message. You don't need to yell to make a point. You just need to show up in your full dignity. And sometimes, that calm confidence, it lands deeper than any loud word ever could. But communication, it's not just about how you speak. It's also about how you listen. Because sometimes, the respect you're looking for begins to grow, when your children start to feel heard by you. Let's talk about that. It might surprise you. Sometimes, to be heard, you have to truly listen. Let me share a story about Dolores. She's 80 years old, a proud mother of 2, and a retired schoolteacher who's always held herself with grace. One afternoon, after weeks of feeling brushed off by her daughter, she finally said, "I feel like you don't respect me anymore." There was a long pause. And then her daughter quietly said something that caught her off guard, "But, Mom, you never really listened to me either." That moment? It hit hard. Because Dolores had been so focused on not being heard, she hadn't realized how often she interrupted, corrected, or dismissed her daughter's thoughts without meaning to. It wasn't done in anger, just habit. But it mattered. You see, respect is a two-way street. Even when you're the parent. Even when you've lived more life. Even when you know more. Because when someone feels truly heard by you, they're far more likely to open their ears, and their heart, to hear you. It doesn't mean giving up your point of view. It just means creating space for theirs. There's a quiet wisdom in listening. And yet, so many people think listening is giving up. They think that staying silent while someone else talks is weakness. But the truth? Listening isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's one of the strongest things you can do. So next time your child or grandchild is speaking, whether they're frustrated, distracted, or trying to explain something in a way you don't quite agree with, just pause. Look them in the eye. And say, "Tell me more." Don't rush to correct. Don't jump to conclusions. Just let them finish. Then take a breath, and respond thoughtfully. Even something as simple as, "I hadn't thought about it that way. That's interesting," can soften a conversation and build a bridge. Because when you show them that their words have value, you're reminding them, so do yours. Now, let's be clear, this doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It doesn't mean staying quiet when you're hurt. But it does mean giving space for real conversation. Not lectures. Not judgments. Just heart-to-heart moments that open doors. When Dolores started listening more, something shifted. Her daughter softened. They started talking more. Laughing again. The tension that had built for years started to dissolve. Not all at once. But bit by bit. And sometimes, that's all it takes, one moment of feeling truly heard, to begin healing something that felt broken. But listening isn't the only way to rebuild respect. What you do matters just as much as what you say. Because sometimes, it's not about conversation at all. Sometimes, respect is rebuilt through quiet, consistent action. Let's talk about that. Here's a truth that can feel both powerful and difficult, if you want respect. Sometimes, you have to go first. Let me introduce you to Leonard. He's 81 now, lives alone in a quiet neighborhood, and for a while, he felt forgotten. His grown children would visit, yes, but often distracted, in a rush, or glued to their phones. Conversations were short, eye contact was rare, and Leonard started to feel like just a stop on their to-do list. It stung. Deeply. He thought about saying something sharp, maybe a little guilt trip to wake them up. But instead, Leonard tried something unexpected. The next time his son dropped by, Leonard looked him in the eyes and said, "Thank you for coming. I really enjoy our time together." Simple. Genuine. No strings. A week later, he did the same with his daughter. Told her how proud he was of her parenting. How he admired her patience. At first, they didn't react much. But slowly, things began to shift. His children lingered a little longer. Put their phones down. Spoke more softly. Listened more carefully. And one afternoon, his daughter hugged him at the door and said, "I'm really glad we came by today, Dad. You make it feel good to be here." That's the power of modeling respect. You see, people tend to mirror what they experience. If they feel criticized, they get defensive. If they feel dismissed, they shut down. But when they feel seen, appreciated, valued, they begin to reflect that back. And yet, here's the catch, most people wait. They wait for the other person to go first. To say the kind words. To show the gratitude. To make the change. But if everyone's waiting, nothing happens. That's why it often takes you, the wise one, the experienced one, to light the first spark. And no, it doesn't mean pretending everything's fine when it's not. It just means choosing to lead with kindness. Choosing to be the example of respect you want to receive. Try this, next time a loved one visits, or even calls, say something small but sincere, "Thank you for taking the time." Or, "I always look forward to our talks." Or even, "You mean more to me than I probably say out loud." Or write a short note. A text. A letter. It doesn't have to be long. Just real. Because consistent, quiet gestures of respect build a foundation stronger than any lecture ever could. And here's the beautiful thing, even if the change doesn't come overnight, you'll have lived your values. You'll have kept your dignity. And in time, more often than not, your kindness will come back to you. But respect isn't only emotional. Sometimes, it's practical. It's about what you do for yourself, the way you carry your life. Because there's something else that speaks volumes to those around you, without you ever saying a word. Let's talk about that. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She's 76, sharp as ever, but she noticed something troubling. Her kids, who once came to her for advice, who once leaned on her strength, had started speaking to her like she was fragile. Helpless, even. Every visit came with questions like, "Mom, are you sure you can handle that? Do you want me to just take care of it for you?" Now, they meant well. But to Eleanor, it felt like they had stopped seeing her. Not as a mother. Not as a woman. But as someone who needed to be managed. And that didn't sit right. So, one day, Eleanor made a quiet decision. She enrolled in a local painting class at the community center, something she'd always wanted to do. She brushed up on her online banking and started handling her finances again. And when she felt confident enough, she booked herself a short trip to the coast. Alone. The reactions from her children? Stunned. "Wait, you did all that on your own?" "Mom, I had no idea." Suddenly, their tone changed. They started asking for her advice again. They listened more. Respected her space more. That quiet fire she rekindled inside herself, they saw it. And that's the lesson here. When you reclaim your independence, you also reclaim your image in the eyes of those around you. You see, respect is often tied to what people perceive you can do. If they see you doing less, even if it's because they're trying to help, they may start assuming you can't do those things. And here's the truth, it's okay to accept help. It's a sign of connection, of trust. But relying on others for everything can sometimes send the wrong message. Not because you're weak, but because they forget your strength. You don't have to climb a mountain to prove your independence. It starts small. Maybe it's making your own breakfast every morning. Calling your doctor and booking your own appointment. Taking a walk to the post office instead of asking for a ride. Or learning to use a new piece of technology, even if it's frustrating at first. Every time you do something for yourself, you send a powerful message: I'm still capable. I'm still growing. I'm still me. And that message? It doesn't go unnoticed. Your children see it. Your grandchildren feel it. And slowly, their behavior shifts. Not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. It's a kind of quiet power. No shouting. No scolding. Just showing up, every day, as the vibrant, independent person you are, or are working to become again. Now, let's be honest. Independence can be a journey. There are days when your body won't cooperate, or when the world feels just a little too fast. But even in those moments, you have choices. You can decide what you can handle, what you want to hold on to. And sometimes, just taking one small step towards self-reliance is all it takes to begin shifting the dynamic in your relationships. Because you're not just a parent. Not just a senior. You are still a person with dreams, skills, strength, and a story that's still unfolding. And your independence? That's part of your story. But respect also grows when you surround yourself with the right people. People who uplift you, who see your worth even when others don't. So, let's talk about the last powerful way to rebuild respect, by choosing your circle with intention. Let me share one last story, one that many shy away from, but it just might be the turning point someone out there needs. George is 82. A retired mechanic. Quiet man. Strong hands, stronger will. But lately, he'd started feeling like a stranger in his own family. His children spoke over him. Made decisions about him, not with him. When he tried to express his thoughts, they'd say things like, "Dad, you just don't understand how things work anymore." He didn't want to fight. He didn't want drama. But he also couldn't keep pretending it didn't bother him. So, one day, George did something he never thought he would. He asked for help. He called a local counselor, someone who worked with families. And he asked if he could bring his children in for just one session. Just one. To his surprise, they agreed. That hour was filled with long silences, awkward truths, and eventually, tears. Not because anyone was wrong. But because for the first time in years, they really heard each other. George shared how it felt to be sidelined. His children shared how they were scared, worried about his health, about doing the wrong thing. They weren't trying to disrespect him. They were just overwhelmed, unsure, and acting from fear, not from malice. That one session didn't fix everything. But it cracked open the door. And from that moment on, the way they treated him, changed. A little more patience. A little more deference. A little more space for George to be George again. Here's the truth we often forget: sometimes, the gap between us and our loved ones is just too wide to cross alone. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you've failed. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means, you may need a bridge. And a good counselor, a trusted elder, a family pastor, can be that bridge. There's this idea that therapy is only for the young, or the broken. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Therapy is for the wise. It's for those who care enough to want healing. For those brave enough to say, we can do better. Let's try. You don't need to start with a formal therapist if that feels too big. You can start simple. Invite your family to sit down over coffee. Say, I want to understand each other better. Not argue. Just talk. Or reach out to someone neutral. A family friend. A spiritual leader. Someone both sides respect. Because here's the thing, respect doesn't always return on its own. Sometimes, you have to fight for it. Gently. Quietly. But firmly. And asking for help? That's not weakness. That's leadership. Because when you take the first step toward healing, you teach those around you that dignity matters. That voices matter. That your voice still matters. So, whether it's one session, one conversation, or one moment of courage, don't underestimate what it can do. And no, these 6 approaches we've talked about, they're not magic spells. They won't flip a switch overnight. But each one, each boundary you build, each word you speak with strength, each moment you listen, or lead with respect, or take back a piece of your independence, each time you ask for help, you're planting seeds. Seeds of awareness. Seeds of change. Seeds of lasting respect. And over time, with care, those seeds grow. So now the question is, which seed will you plant first? Because your story isn't finished yet. And your voice, it still matters more than you know. Let's take a moment now to bring everything together. It's painful, isn't it? To feel like you've become background noise in your own family. To sit in a room with the very people you raised, people you fed, protected, taught, and feel like you're no longer part of the conversation. To watch decisions being made about your life, your health, your home, while your voice is nowhere in the room. That pain is real. It's not in your imagination. It's not something to brush aside or swallow down. It's not just how things are now. And you're not overreacting. That ache in your heart, that quiet grief you carry, it's valid. Because it hurts to feel invisible. It hurts to be dismissed, especially by the people you love most. But here's the truth, you are not powerless. This isn't the end of your influence. This isn't where your story stops. And this certainly isn't where your dignity fades away. You are still the same person who's lived, loved, struggled, and triumphed. You've held generations together. You've sacrificed in ways only you remember. You have earned your place, not through loud demands, but through decades of showing up, over and over again. And just because some around you have forgotten that, doesn't mean you have to forget it too. So, let's reframe this moment. Not as something to fear, but as something to prepare for. Respect doesn't disappear with age. It just changes shape. It becomes less about authority, and more about presence. Less about control, and more about clarity. You can rebuild respect. Not with force. But with wisdom. With grace. With quiet strength that speaks volumes, even in silence. And that starts with something small. Pick just one of the 6 steps we've explored together today. Maybe it's gently rebuilding a boundary, saying, "This is something I'd like to decide for myself." Or maybe it's learning to speak with strength, not anger, saying, "I need you to hear me out, because this matters to me." Or perhaps it's listening with deeper intent, opening the door for mutual understanding. Maybe it's leading by example, showing kindness even when you feel dismissed. Or it could be reclaiming a bit of independence, doing something on your own again, even if it's just for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, it's reaching out for outside support, and saying, "We all need a little help sometimes." You don't have to do it all. You just have to do one thing. And that one thing could change everything. Because small changes lead to big shifts. And here's what I need you to remember, you have a lifetime of wisdom to offer. Real wisdom. The kind that only comes from living. And that wisdom? It's still needed. It's still powerful. It still has the power to heal, to guide, to bring people back together. You are not past your prime. You are not just someone to be looked after. You are a cornerstone. A voice of reason. A presence that matters deeply. So please, don't silence yourself. Don't shrink. Don't fade into the background. Stand in the quiet truth of who you are. Speak with the authority of experience. Act with the grace of someone who knows what truly matters. And remember, you deserve to be heard. You deserve to be seen. And you most certainly deserve to be loved. Let's take a moment now to bring it all home, and look at what comes next. Let's take a deep breath, and remember what we've uncovered today. To regain the respect you rightfully deserve, especially from those closest to you, doesn't mean you have to raise your voice, or demand anything. It's about anchoring yourself in your worth, and gently guiding the world around you to see it again. Here's a quick recap of the 6 powerful ways to regain respect. 1. Rebuild boundaries with kindness. Not harshly, but gently letting others know where your line is, and that it matters. 2. Speak with strength, not bitterness. Because calm, clear truth carries more weight than anger ever will. 3. Truly listen to be heard. Respect flows both ways, and listening often opens the door for others to listen back. 4. Be the example of respect you want. Sometimes you have to lead with love, even when it hasn't yet been returned. 5. Reclaim your independence. Not to push people away, but to remind them, and yourself, that you are still capable. 6. Seek outside support or counseling. When the gap feels too wide, a gentle guide can help everyone find their way back together. Now, let me ask you something important. Which of these steps feels most needed in your life right now? Have you tried any of them before? Did something work, or maybe didn't work the way you hoped? Please, share your story in the comments. You might be surprised how many people out there feel the exact same way. And your voice, your experience, might be just what another person needs to hear today. We are building more than just a channel here. We're building a community of wisdom, support, healing, and strength. So, if today's message spoke to you, if it touched something deep inside, give this video a thumbs up. And subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide, because here, you are never alone. This space is for you, and it's growing, one story at a time. And finally, from my heart to yours, thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for being open. For being brave enough to reflect. And for still believing in the power of respect, no matter how long it's been missing. Stay wise. Stay strong. And remember, your voice still matters. Your presence still matters. And there is so much more ahead for you than behind. I'll see you in the next video.